Okay, so we've been talking about the various aspects of prayer, Tefillah, and what I want to do today, maybe tomorrow, I don't know how much faster it goes, is to look at Tachlin, the Tefillah Sapayim, not the long one, the short one that you say every day in the Siddur. It's on 133. So first I want to take a look at the basic content of it, and then I'll tell you what the Ramchal says about the function of it. And the function will lead us to some very deep themes, I think. I have to calibrate this again. No, I did calibrate it. A second. Yeah, no, I did calibrate. It's just telling me that I'm low. Okay. So let's take a look. I guess you say Vayomer Dovid? We don't say that. Okay. Dovid said to God, I'm exceedingly distressed. Middle of page 133. Let us fall to Hashem's hand, for his mercies are abundant, but let me not fall to human hands. Compassionate, gracious one, I have sinned before you. Hashem is full of mercy, have mercy on me, and accept my pleas. In other words, here I'm confessing sins that I failed. Now comes this section from Psalm number 6, which is really, let's just read through it. Do not rebuke me in your anger, nor chastise me in your rage. Favor me, for I am feeble. Heal me, for my bones shudder. My soul is utterly overwhelmed. You, Hashem, until when? Desist, Hashem. Rescue my soul. Save me as benefits your kindness. For there's no mention of you in death in the lower world. Who will thank you? I'm wearied with my sigh. Every night I drench my bed with my tears. I soak my couch. My eyes dimmed with anger and aged by my tormentors. Leave me, all evildoers, for Hashem has heard the sound of my weeping. Hashem has heard my plea. Hashem will accept my prayer. Let all my foes be shamed and utterly overwhelmed. They will feel regret and be instantly shamed. So, the basic two themes here are, I'm guilty. I'm guilty, and I feel overwhelmed by my guilt. And I'm facing enemies. And I'm vulnerable to those enemies. I'm asking Hashem both for help with my own failure and with the fact that my failure has made me vulnerable to enemies. That's the theme here. Now go to page 137, which is where it continues on a weekday. It's not on Monday and Thursday. It's every day. Guardian of Israel, protect the remnant of Israel. Let not Israel be destroyed. Those who declare, Hear, O Israel. Guardian of the unique nation, protect the remnant of the unique people. Let not the unique nation be destroyed. Those who proclaim the oneness of your name. Hashem, my God, Hashem is one. Guardian of the holy nation, protect the remnant of the holy people. Let not the holy nation be destroyed. Who declare threefold sanctification of the Holy One. In other words, we're in danger, protect us. All of it is just poetical elaboration of the idea that we are in danger. And here it's the Jewish people who are in danger. And now it's an expression of confidence that we will be saved. You will become favored through compassion, become appeased through pleas, when we plead with God, become favorable and appeased to the poor in generation, charity and kindness. We do not know what we should do, but our eyes upon you. We're lost. We can't recover the situation. Remember your mercies, your kindnesses, for they're from the beginning of the world. May your kindness be on us, Hashem. If we look towards you, we trust in you. We're hoping for you. Do not recall against us the sins of the ancients, which could possibly happen. May your mercies meet us swiftly, for we have become exceedingly impoverished. Gracious to us, okay, over and over again. We're in trouble. We've committed transgressions. We're vulnerable to our enemies, and we need your help both to rehabilitate our transgressions, to save us from our enemies. Ramchal, in his section on Tefillah, the fourth part of the Way of God, we've mentioned this before. I'll just mention the idea, and then I'll tell you what he says about this in particular. We said that Tefillah has 7 parts, 3 steps going up to the top, then there's the top itself, and then 3 steps coming down. And they're parallel. The steps going up are parallel to one, and coming down are parallel to one another. On the way up, the first step is the korbanos. There are 4 worlds, and what we're doing is this. In the first part of the prayer, we're linking world number 4 to world number 3. Asiyat Yitzira, for those who know the terminology. The second part of the prayer, which is Psukei de Zimra, the Psalms, we're linking world number 3 to world number 2. That's Yitzira to Bria. In the third part of the prayer, which is Shema and its blessings, we're linking world number 2 to world number 1. That's Bria to Atzilus. In the fourth part of the prayer, we are addressing the world of Atzilus on top. We're speaking to it and interacting with it. And the purpose of our interaction with Atzilus on the top is to institute, instigate, justify a flow of divine energy from 1 to 2, and from 2 to 3, and 3 to 4. So the process here is very interesting. First you join 4 to 3, then you join 3 to 2, then you join 3 to 1, and then you interact with 1 so as to justify a flow downwards. One thing that tells you is the purpose of the flow is to get to the bottom. So if you don't have the bottom linked to the top, don't talk about flow. Don't try to justify it. Don't try to influence it, because if it isn't linked to the bottom, it's not going to flow. If you link 2 to 1 and try to talk to 1 and get a flow to 2, it's not going to happen, because the purpose is not for the flow to get to 2. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to get to 4, and therefore 4 has to be linked up before you make any appeal at all. He says exactly the same thing happens with tefillin. Put the tefillin on the arm, which is to involve the arm and the heart, because the chamber of the tefillin is opposite the heart. And then you put it on the head, and what happens is that justifies the flow from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the head, and from the head to the heart, from the heart to the arm. So you think, well, wait a second. If the flow is going to go from my head to my heart to my arm, why not put the tefillin on the head? No, because it's got to get down to the lowest element. If the lowest element isn't connected, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. There can't be a flow just to the head. Only when the arm and the heart are linked to the head, then there can be a flow, because then to the head also, because they'll go all the way down to the bottom. So there's a theme about how Kadosh Baruch Hu deals with the universe. When Moses goes to heaven to get the Torah, and the angels say, don't give it to them, give it to us. There's a whole argument back and forth. And one way to understand the argument, especially with Rashi, is Moshe says to the angels, you are superior to us, you're greater than we are, you have greater powers than we are. If the Torah were given to you, you in fact would keep it better than we do, but you're not living in the mud where we're living. You're not at the bottom. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants the flow to go all the way to the bottom. That's why we have to have it, because we live at the bottom. And the angels were very happy with that, because it acknowledged the superiority of their abilities and the superiority of their position. It's just that that's not the purpose. The purpose is it should go all the way to the bottom. So, the way Tefillah works is linking everything up and then addressing Atzilus in such a way as to justify a flow all the way down to the bottom. Now, when you do that, when you say you recite the silent Shemona Esrei, and that's where you're interacting with Atzilus to bring the flow to the bottom, then the accusers appear. The critics appear. Speaking about angels now. And they say to Kadosh Baruch Hu, what's going on here? look at this person who's davening. What a outsized project he's set for himself. He's going to link 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1, and speak to Atzilus to bring a flow from Atzilus down. Who is he? Let's check him out. Let's see whether he's worthy of this. Does he really deserve to be engaged in this project? In particular, let's take a look at his liabilities. Let's take a look at his liabilities. Is he always successful in serving you? Does he do everything in a superb way? No. Then he has no business engaging himself in this glorious process. That's what saying the Shemona Esrei triggers. It triggers that critique. Now, what are we going to do with respect to that critique? How are we going to respond to cut off the mekatragim? The way we respond is by saying, yes, you're right. Truthfully, we have failed numerous times. And because we have failed numerous times, we're not worthy of this, of engaging in this process. And we're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for forgiveness and for healing and for cleansing and for protection against you who are our enemies, who are coming to destroy our efforts, because we recognize that we're not really worthy of it. Because Baruch Hu told us to do it. It's a mitzvah. We have to do it. But we know that we're not really worthy of it. We know that we're failing, and we're asking Kodesh Baruch Hu for help and for protection. That's how we try to cut off the critique of the accusers who say that we're not worthy of doing it. That's what Tachanun is doing here, says Ramchal. You had a question?
Yeah, well, it's two questions. The first one is, do we see also the structure of Asiyah, Yitzirah, Bria, and Atzilut in the structure of how the tefillin process is built? Or?
You mean the tefillin?
Yeah. Like Asiyah with the hand, as we said, and then we link the heart with the tefillin, and then the head with the heart, and like the whole, is it like somehow also
That's a very interesting thought. But that would mean that the head, which is the seichel, could be, Chochmah could be associated with Bria. And then I think, if I did that, what I would say is that Atzilus is corresponding to Dibur, to speech. Because that's the highest element in human being, is speech, according to some ways of looking at it. It's a nice thought. Yes, the arm does correspond to Asiyah, and the heart, if it's ruach, in terms of nefesh, ruach, neshama, and so on and so on, would be good for that, and the shema would definitely be good for the seichel. We said shema means to understand. It's one of the ways we explain shema altogether. So, I think it's a nice thought. It's a very nice thought. Very good. Very good. Okay, so that, in rough terms, is what Tachanun is doing. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you had a second question. Yeah.
The Tachanun, I mean, I know it's a different structure in this Siddur, but there is like even Selichot that is brought in the Tachanun structure. Like there is like Idu and Selichot, and then Shema is like there is like that structure which is.
Well, now I think
like the Nusach. Has a Selichot and the 13 attributes of Rachamim.
Well, that's not slichot. That's something else. I mean, you say it as a Sephardi, and we say it as Hasidim who have Nusach Sfard, the European Nusach Sfard. We also say slichot, but that's not called slichot.
No.
Slichot is what you say in the month of Elul, and you say on Asar B'Teves. So that's slichot. Now. It's true that the slichos come at the time when Tachanun comes. It's the same time of the prayer. So I don't think it's called officially slichot. The Germans, the Ekis, put it into the Chazor Sashatz. They put the slichot into the Chazor Sashatz. Anyway, let's leave that aside for now. I'm not doing slichot now. But the question I want to raise is this: what about the days in which we don't say Tachna? Like Rosh Chodesh, Hanukkah, Purim. What about those days? Don't the Mekatrigim appear, the critics appear? We're saying the same Shemona Esrei. We're trying to accomplish the same thing, to bring the Shefa, to bring the divine energy down from Atzilus down to the other worlds. We do link them all up like we do on all the other days. What response do we have for the Mekatrigim on those days? Now, if I remember correctly, what I'm saying is my own, is I don't think I saw this in the Ramchal. Well, on many of those days we have Hallel. And that should give us a pause for thought. Hallel is standing in for Tachnun. That's when you recite it, right after the Shemona Esrei. What's the message? Hallel is an expression of Simcha. Could it be that Simcha does the same job of cutting off the Mekatrigim? Simcha, although it's a very different process, Simcha is not like confessing your sins and asking Kodesh Baruch Hu for cure for your sins and expressing your distress. You soak your bed at night with your tears and so forth and so on. It's certainly not the same process, but it could have the same outcome. And I'm inclined to think that that's true. We saw in the Shemona Esrei of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur that what cuts off evil is the rejoicing of the tzaddikim. So there definitely is a connection between rejoicing and cutting off evil. So and we do have a mitzvah of Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, to serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu out of joy. What exactly does serving the Kodesh Baruch Hu out of joy connote? What does it express? What does it accomplish? And maybe if we understand that, we can understand how an expression of simcha would have the same effect in protecting us from the critics. And by the way, before I go through the simple part, through the hollow part of it, I'm not going to do hollow in detail. That's something we do on other occasions. I just want to point out, there are days in which we don't say tachanun and we don't say hollow. What days are those? Those are days when there's a simcha, when there's a chassan present, or when there's a bris, or when there's the sandik of a bris, or the baal bris. These are people who have special simchas. And the idea is that the community, knowing that one of their members has this joyous event, also participates in the joy, and that cancels tachanun. So it does seem like the idea is there's joy that's canceling tachanun. So I want to remind you of something that we've said on some occasions, and then try to use that as background for what I want to say now. We've talked about two types of mitzvos. There are mitzvos that are obligatory, where Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I command you to do the mitzvah. If you do the mitzvah, you'll be rewarded. If you don't, you'll be punished, because I commanded you to do it. And then there are mitzvos which are voluntary. Because Baruch Hu says, I'm offering them to you, and if you do them, you'll be rewarded. But if you don't, there won't be any penalty. Like, for example, eating an apple in the sukkah. You are required to eat certain things in the sukkah, bread for sure, cake, according to some, even drinking wine. But apples, you're not required. But if you do, you make a bracha. Make a bracha, Yeshivat B'sukkah, according to many. And everyone agrees you're being mekayim a mitzvah sukkah. It's just as a voluntary mitzvah, not an obligatory mitzvah. So we have two types of mitzvahs, voluntary and obligatory. And according to the tradition, the obligatory mitzvah is more important, more significant, you get a greater reward for it than the voluntary. And when people hear that, especially people who aren't conversant with the Jewish tradition, they find that hard to understand because, and here's their thought, and the thought is both right and wrong at the same time. The thought is, when you do something that you're obligated to do, what are you showing about yourself? What are you expressing? Well, you're expressing the fact that you are dutiful, you're obedient, you're responsible. Those are important traits, no question about it. You've accepted the authority of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you recognize yourself as obliged to do what he says. But when you volunteer to do a mitzvah, a voluntary mitzvah, you're showing that it's precious to you, that it's valuable to you, that you're inspired by it. That's why you would volunteer to do it. Isn't that much deeper, much more noble than just being obedient and dutiful and responsible? And wouldn't that make the bracha more precious and the mitzvah more precious when your highest values and aspirations are motivating you to do the mitzvah? So the answer is that although the psychological description is correct, the conclusion is the exact opposite. Because the psychological description is correct, that's the reason why it's less valuable and not more valuable. And there are two explanations. The one, I'm mentioning it because it's there and because it's well known. Tosfos says you get more reward because it's harder, because when it's only voluntary, then the rebellious side of your nature says, don't tell me what to do, don't push me around, and when it's obligatory. And wants to rebel precisely because you are ordered to do it, and therefore you have to overcome that part of your character, your psychology, and because you have to overcome it, it's harder, and therefore you get a greater reward. That's Tosfos' explanation. But the Ritva and the Maharal have a different explanation, not in contradiction to Tosfos, but in addition to Tosfos, and that is, if you measure how much of the action you do has a HaKadosh Baruch Hu in it, and how much has you in it, when you're doing something that's obligatory, he ordered me to do it. And I'm just carrying out orders. I'm just a sort of appendage with which his will gets done in the world. There's very little of my character and my values and my inspiration and my nobility in it. It's just the creator of the world said to do it, so I do it. The voluntary mitzvah, just as we said, has a great deal of me in it. It's my inspiration, it's my nobility, it's my sensitivity, it's the nobility of my values that leads me to do it, and all those four descriptions have the word my in them. It means to say, it's a great deal of expression of my elevated character when I'm doing it. And precisely because there's so much of me in it, it's inferior. Not superior, it's inferior. The higher action is the one that's more godly. It's more godly when it's he acting through me. When it's voluntary, there's a great deal of me in it. So that's going to make it inferior. Okay, that makes it inferior. But, says the Netziv Shalom, if you imagine a person whose whole life is doing obligatory mitzvos, there's a dimension of his relationship to God that's missing. At least it's not expressed. It might not be missing, it might be there, but it's not expressed directly. And that is doing out of love. Because doing out of love precisely wants to do even that which is not obligatory. It doesn't mean you couldn't do the obligatory ones out of love. You can. But love wants to volunteer. Love wants to go beyond what's specifically required. And serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu out of love is the highest level of service. And like the Ramchal writes in Mesilas Yesharim, chapter 28 of the Path of the Just, where he says the highest level of serving Kodesh Baruch Hu is out of a desire to give Kodesh Baruch Hu pleasure, whatever that means, nachas ruach, which would mean whether I'm obligated or not. If I know that he'll be pleased with it, I want to do it because he'll be pleased with it. You show that motivation specifically when you do things that aren't obligatory. Again, I said you show it. I didn't say you didn't have it. For obligatory ones, you could have the motivation, but you don't show it. So what does joy do? If I serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu out of simcha, what I'm showing is how important it is to me. It's important to show that. That's why, if I do even the obligatory ones with joy, I'm using the obligatory ones to show that. And showing that is very important. So now, I have said the Shemona Esrei, and I'm trying to bring down the flow from Atzilus to the other worlds. And the critics come and say, who are you? Who are you? You're trying to do this gigantic foundation of the whole creation. You're not worthy of it. You're full of transgressions, failures. If I can show that there's at least part of me, an element in me, that serves the Kodesh Baruch Hu with joy, then I can show that serving Kodesh Baruch Hu is something which is very precious to me. Yes, there are failures. It's true. There are failures. I'm not perfect. I do things that are wrong. That's because other things get in the way, and I don't manage them in the appropriate way. But it's also true about me that serving Kodesh Baruch Hu is very precious to me. And then Kodesh Baruch Hu can say to the critic, you're right, he's not perfect. You're right, he does fail in certain ways. But look, there's part of him for whom this is the precious part of his life. That makes him worthy of saying the Shemona Esrei and bringing down the flow from the top all the way to the bottom. I'll give you another analogy to this. We said, when we spoke about the Shema, so love HaKadosh Baruch Hu with all your heart and with all your soul. With all your heart, we said, meant when you're living your life, when you're making your decisions, what to do and how to do it, think to yourself, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want? With all your soul means that even if you have to die, because the enemy is saying to you, worship the idol or I'll kill you, you have to be willing to die. And we said that those two requirements are not redundant, because different people could have one and not the other in both directions. You can have people who, on an everyday basis, are focused on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they make their decisions in terms of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. But when the guy with the gun puts a gun to the head, they just go to pieces, and they say, but I can't die. I know I'm supposed to, but I die. That far I can't go. I just can't do it. And it happens vice versa also. Here's something which you might not expect, but we know it from Jewish history, where a person, when it comes to the 2-for-1 sale in McDonald's for the bacon cheeseburgers, says, kosher, yeah, I really should, I want to keep kosher, yeah. Next week when there isn't the 2-for-1 sale. Because with the 2-for-1 sale, I just can't resist that, Or scuba diving on Shabbat and so forth and so on. But when the non-Jew comes and says, bow to the idol, he says, that I don't do. I don't bow to idols. No, absolutely not. Yeah, sometimes I slip up with Shabbos and I slip up with kashrus, but bowing to idols, absolutely not. You can kill me, I don't bow to an idol. So he will fulfill loving God with all his soul, even though he doesn't consistently fulfill loving God with his whole heart. Now, how is the Kodesh Baruch Hu going to look at that person? Look, he has problems with Shabbos. He has problems with kashrus. But he died for me. He died for me. When it says that a person dies al Kiddush Hashem, he goes to the highest position in the afterworld, it doesn't say only if he didn't have other transgressions. The ability to give up your life is a gigantic ability. So there you see that the Kodesh Baruch Hu treats this person with the highest level of accomplishment, even though he has these failures which accompany him and which weren't perfect. So the same thing could be true for joy. Joy can qualify a person for tremendous divine recognition, even if not everything he did was perfect. And then when the accusers come, he can say, but look, I do serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy, at least sometimes. Yes, I do transgressions. You can't say that I was serving Hashem with joy when I did a transgression. I wasn't serving him at all. I was rebelling against him. But there are times when I serve him with love, and that could serve the same purpose of cutting off the critics and preserving the authority and I don't want to use the word authenticity because it is thankfully in ill repute now. Turns out that all the psychology that was talking about authenticity has been refuted by poor definition and no statistical basis. Let's not talk about being true to yourself in Shakespeare's terms. But in the fact that it's a genuine part of your character to be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy, that in itself could silence the critics and preserve the appropriateness of our being able to address Atzilus and bring the Shefa down. Yeah.
Just where is that joy expressed, or how do we express that joy into the Tachnun structure?
Mm-hmm. It's not in the Tachnun structure.
It's like an idea that we should.
No. Let me go back through the reasoning because it's the opposite. It's an alternative. The question was like this. In the Shemona Esrei, we're addressing Atzilus, the very highest level. We're bringing down the Shefa. Says the Ramchal, that excites the critics. You know, it's like what Chazal say. When a person puts himself in danger, then the Midas Adin, the attribute of strict justice, says, so what are we going to do? We're going to save him from danger? That's a big deal. Saving him from is he worthy of it? Because he put himself in danger, he makes himself liable to a very strict examination of the way in which he's been behaving. Okay? So I'm reading the Ramchal as saying a similar thing about Shemona Esrei. You said Shemona Esrei, the same critics who will criticize your viability and look for your vulnerability when you put yourself in danger are going to do it when you daven to Shemona Esrei? Who are you to do that? So that's when the critics come in, and I have to protect myself against their critique. Tachlin is one way to protect myself against their critique. They're going to say that I have failures. I say I do have failures, and I regret them, and I feel terrible about them. I'm pleading with the Kodesh Baruch Hu to save me from them. And that's how I say to the critics, yes, I'm aware of my failures, and I'm doing tshuva for them, and I'm asking for the Kodesh Baruch Hu's help. The question only arises then, if I don't have Tachlin to protect myself with, what do I protect myself with? And the answer I'm suggesting is that since what relieves us of Tachlin is joy, sometimes we say Halla, but it's joy, maybe feeling the Simcha also protects us in a different way from the critics. So it's not that the Tachlin is done with joy. It's that without the Tachlin, when we don't say the Tachlin, it's because we have joy, and joy can protect us from the critics in its own way. That's the suggestion that I'm making. Okay, so you see that what you asked is not in the.
I see. But I just wanted to ask also, like perhaps also it could be said with certain joy, like to acknowledge where we were and where we're.
I think that's right. If Duras Hashem Simcha applies to all service of Hashem, and that would include saying Tachlin, but it's not the joy in the Tachlin that does the cutting off. It's the sadness and the honesty and the feeling of guilt and regret and so on. That's what's doing the cutting off. Right? In the other cases, did you have a question? Did you hang on? No? Oh, okay. Okay, now, all right, we have some time. Let's take a look at Barich Shmei. This puzzled me for a long time. This is page 139. We open the Ark, and we're going to take out the Torah. We're going to take out the Torah for reading the Torah. Let's see what... This quotation from the Zohar, at the bottom of page 139, says, "Blessed is the name of the Master of the universe. Blessed is your crown and your place. May your favor remain with your people Israel forever. May you display the salvation of your right hand to your people in your holy temple. Benefit us with the goodness of your luminescence, that means shedding of light, and to accept our prayers with mercy. May it be your will that you extend our lives with goodness, that I be numbered among the righteous, that you have mercy on me and protect me, all that is mine, and that is your people Israel's, what belongs to me, what belongs to the Jewish people. It is you who nourishes, okay, third person. Yeah, I would have written you who nourish, not nourishes. You is second person. All, sustains all. You control everything. It is you who controls kings. Kingship is yours. I am a servant of the Holy One, blessed be He. Prostrate myself before Him, before the glory of His Torah at all times. Not in any man do I put my trust, nor in any angel do I rely, only on the God of heaven, who is the God of truth, whose Torah is truth, whose prophets are true, and who acts generously with kindness, with truth. In Him do I trust, to His glorious and holy name do I declare praises. May it be your will, or you open my heart to the Torah, that you fulfill wishes of my heart and the heart of your entire people, Israel, for good, for life, and for peace. That's a very long paragraph. Why is that the paragraph that we say before we take the Torah out to read it? It does mention Torah, 2 words in the last lines. An awful lot there that has nothing to do with Torah. Torah study, Torah practice, reading the Torah. And I couldn't understand how this was preparing me to hear the Torah read in either of its guises. Reading the Torah, I should mention this to you, when you read the Torah, there's a difference of opinion what you should do. Should you stand or sit? I don't know what you do here in the yeshiva. Maybe they haven't discussed it with you. Maybe the yeshiva doesn't have a practice, one way or the other. If you sit, it's because it's a little bit of Torah study, and sitting is our posture in which we study Torah. If you stand, it's because of reenactment of Sinai. It's as if you're hearing the ten pronouncements at Sinai. There it says that the people stood. But I don't see in this quotation of the Zohar a preparation for either of those. And then it occurred to me, we're saying this because we're opening the ark. We're opening the ark, which the Torah is residing. Maybe just opening the ark opens up something which could have a flow for us. Yes, we're going to take the Torah out. We are. And we're going to read it. Yes, we're going to do that. That's true. We are going to do that. But maybe opening the ark is more than taking the Torah out. Indeed, we ask for the return of the temple and that we should have benefits coming from the temple. And the ark holding the Sefer Torah is a certain link to the idea of the ark in the Holy of Holies of the temple, which had the tablets in it. According to some, it also had a Sefer Torah in it as well. So maybe the image here is interacting with something which represents the power of the temple, and from which all these flows come by opening it up. And then we take the Sefer Torah out and we read it. So then I think that we should, when you say this, that's what you should have in mind. You should have in mind the idea that this is interacting with a remnant of the temple. We spoke, we usually speak about this in time in the summer when close to Tisha B'Av, that there are two mitzvos of relating to the temple, which once was and is now destroyed, which will be rebuilt in Yisrael Hashem. I shouldn't say it that way. Maral points out, I should say it will be built in Yisrael Hashem in our own time. It will be built. It's not an Imshas Hashem. It's already promised that it will be built. One is Zechel HaChurban, remembering the destruction, and one is Zechel HaMikdash, which means, I'm explaining, which I heard from my Rabbi Zatzal, that is to remember and relate to what's left of the temple still in the world. I don't mean the rocks on Har HaBayis. I mean there's something of the reality of the temple in the world, so that when we have Zechel HaMikdash Kehillel in the Seder, or when we take the Lul of 7 days, which is a Zechel HaMikdash, it means that we are doing something that is similar to what was done in the Mikdash, and in that way we are realizing and accessing what's left in the world of the Mikdash. And it occurs to me that when we say this Brich Shmei, and we are asking for the rebuilding of the temple, and we're asking for the energy that came from the temple, which provided certain things for the Jewish people, that's because the Aron Kodesh in the synagogue is similar to the Aron Kodesh that was in the Beis Hamikdash, which had the tablets in it, and we are interacting with that. So this is also a remnant of the temple, and therefore we can treat it as something which we can ask for, the flow that came from the temple to be available to us as well. So I think that's a way of thinking about Brich Shmei, which gives us, a way to relate to the entire content of it, and not just think of it as opening the Aron to take out the Sefer Torah to be able to read it. Okay, I just want to make one more remark, and then I'm going to finish with it. In the middle, in 141, the next to last paragraph, 141, this is, people say it quickly, and with the Sefer Torah is being opened, and they don't really pay attention. May the Father of compassion have mercy upon the people that is born by him, all right, Amusim, and may he remember the covenant of the spiritually mighty. May he rescue our souls from the bad times and upbraid, that means to criticize and denigrate the evil inclination, to leave those whom he carries. Nisu'im. Linso means to carry. Nisu'im is passive, meaning those who are carried by him. To criticize and rebuke the evil inclination, to leave alone those whom he is carrying. That's a very, very beautiful image. When God says to Moses to care for the Jewish people a certain way, he says, am I their omein, that's like stepmother, that I should carry this people? And Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying, yes, that's what I want you to do. Right? Kodesh Baruch Hu is himself carrying us. So we're appealing to his compassion for us on the grounds that he's committed to us. We're appealing to him from a position where he's already committed to doing what we're asking for, which is the best kind of appeal to make. You're carrying us, you're protecting us, you're moving us from one position to another position in the way that we have to go. And here along comes this negative force which threatens to interrupt the entire process. From your position of carrying us, please protect us. That's, yeah. This word, I think it's the only place that I know of that this word is used, that we are the ones that are being carried by him. It makes this little paragraph a very poignant paragraph, for me anyway.